Hi, I'm Lisa Lacroix. Welcome back to my little YouTube channel. I call myself Your Communication Muse, and this video is part of my Intimate Connection series where we explore the tools that build deeper and more conscious relationships. If you're here for the speaking skills content, that is also part of this channel. You can find it at this link here, so feel free to check out those segments when you're done here or jump over there now. Today, in this video, we are diving into a communication practice I find transformational. It's called Imago Dialogue, and it was originally developed by Harville Hendrix and Helen LaKelly Hunt and popularized through their book called Getting the Love You Want, which I will put in the show notes. I first learned it in a workshop at Esalen with Rick Brown back in 2011, which is mind blown, 14 years ago. And it is still a practice that I come back to again and again. It's a practice I use in my own relationships and that I coach my clients to support each other in deepening their connection. It is powerful. So first I'm going to share some of the underlying principles that are the foundation of Imago Dialogue. And then I'm going to walk you through the framework so you can start to apply it in your relationships. The first of the foundational theories, concepts is recognizing the influence of our childhood experiences. Imago Dialogue framework suggests that our childhood relationships, our experiences in our first family shape our adult communication patterns, and that if we can understand the ways in which our past has influenced our habitual responses in communication, and we can become more aware of our tendencies, then we can start to adjust them. Imago Dialogue also emphasizes how important it is for connection to truly listen to the other person in ways that are not typical in our culture because we have not generally been taught these types of skills. My speaking coach, Casey Baker, introduced a concept I've talked about many times called fertile listening. Fertile listening is when you listen to another in a way that they can't help but bloom in your presence. And when you add an active practice to that so that you can show and illustrate how much you're listening, it becomes even more powerful. So when we reflect back what we've heard someone share, coming from a place of deeply wanting to understand their perspective and their experience, we can transform our connection with that person as well as their own experience of themselves, their their own experience that they're sharing, and also their experience of you as the listener. So the Imago approach encourages, in addition to active listening, that we validate the other person's feelings and experiences, even if they differ from your own. And I'll be talking a little bit more as I go through the framework about how it's not important that we agree with or we have the same beliefs in order to validate another person's feelings. And when we can do so in an authentic and caring way, it creates a sense of safety and openness in the conversation, which of course creates more connection. So when we incorporate Imago Dialogue principles into our communication practices, we will start to have more fulfilling and effective interactions with others. And like any framework that is new, when we begin to use it, sometimes it can feel a little clunky, sometimes it can feel a little prescriptive or prescribed. And so if you're starting to use this practice for the first time, give yourself a lot of space and allow yourself to learn little by little. If it doesn't feel natural to begin with, don't even worry, keep on practicing. But let me walk you through the framework now, because there are three main parts to the dialogue. That's mirroring, validation, and empathy. And here's how they will work. And I'm going to see if I can do a little back and forth practice playing both roles. Step one is mirroring. This is where one person speaks, a person who has requested to be heard because Maybe they're feeling upset about something that happened related to a conflict, or maybe they've had an experience they simply want to share in a way that's deeply held. So maybe it's got some vulnerability to it. The second person's job is simply to reflect back what they heard, ideally word for word, or at least the essence of it. And the point is, there is no interrupting, no analyzing, no responding, no fixing. The person in the mirroring position would use prompts like, "What I hear you saying is," or "Let me see if I got that right. And is there more?" What that might sound like is something like this. The speaker sharing their experience says, "I had this experience, whatever it is, and here's how I felt." So they'll basically share their experience in ideally 2 or 3 sentences, not a whole paragraph, because they're wanting to be mirrored by the other person. So we want to give them a chance to actually get it. So the essence of the thing itself, really practicing speaking from an authentic place. And then when they're finished, the listener or the mirror, the reflector would say, "What I hear you saying is," and then repeat back, ideally word for word or as close to possible to it as possible. Now, some people think that if we repeat back word for word, that we will be coming across as condescending. But the truth is that if we are listening to another person well enough that we can repeat back word for word, they will have been listened to and they will feel that they have been listened to. So don't be afraid to repeat back word for word. "What I hear you saying is," repeat it back. Or, "Let me see if I got that right. You, blah, 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 blah," whatever it is. And then the person who is speaking would say something like, "And notice the difference, notice the options." "Not really." Or, "Yeah." Or, "Yes, that's what I was saying." So ideally, we're wanting to get to that yes. So if the person who is speaking says, "Not really, what I said was," and then hopefully not with too much upset, they will repeat it back. "What I said was," and they might say it again, to which point the mirror, the receiver, the listener says, "Okay, what I think I hear you saying is," repeating it back, hopefully getting closer this time, so that the speaker might say something like, "Yeah, yeah, that's right." Notice it's not a full 100% yes. So at that point, the person mirroring might say, "Okay, let me just clarify. What you're saying is such and such." "Yes, that's what I'm saying." And at this point, and this is a magical piece, "Is there more?" To which the speaker might say, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, there is something more. There's also this experience that I want to tell you about." Da, 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 da. So what I hear you saying now is that you also do whatever it is. Speaker hopefully gets to the place finally where you say, "Yes, that's what I'm saying." And the person mirroring continues to use, "What I hear you saying is there more? Did I get that right?" Until the speaker visibly relaxes their nervous system and says, "Yes, yes, you got it." And the difference between fully feeling heard and sort of feeling heard is palpable. When someone feels fully heard, you can see their light come on. You can see their body relax. You can see a kind of connection that naturally happens between the two people. And it's a beautiful thing. So when we can get good at this practice of mirroring, we get to have access to the gift of having another person truly feel like they're blooming in our presence, like they have been deeply seen and known. The second step is validation. So after the mirroring, the listener might say something like, "That makes sense. I can see how you would experience this thing," whatever it is. You don't have to agree with the content. And this is really important because so many times we think we can't validate another's experience or acknowledge what their emotional truth is if we don't agree with them. It's really important to notice that we do not have to agree with someone or have the same perspective as them to validate their experience. That makes sense that you would feel that way. The person speaking probably would feel like Thank you. And then you'll notice the nervous system start to soften. The third step is empathy. And this is the heart opener. This is where the listener adds something like, I imagine, giving the experience you just shared, that you probably feel sad or you might feel disappointed. And that makes sense. All right. So what I hear you saying is, do 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 do. That makes sense that you would feel that way. And I can imagine that there might also be this other experience. When you add these pieces together in a way that is artful, which might take some practice, the person who is speaking will be heart opened in a way that is very different from our standard way of communicating and dialoguing with each other. The important part about this process is that there's always a speaker who is the sharer, the describer, the person who is doing the speaking, and there's a receiver and a mirror, and you don't mix them up because that's where you can go down the wrong path. If it feels important after you've done that round and gotten to the place where the person feels deeply heard and seen, then you can switch, and the person who was originally the listener can be the speaker and share their perspective on it. So if you try this practice, I would like to know how it goes. Leave a comment below. Let me know what it's like for you and what kind of impact it has. And if I can, I'll put something down in the show notes to give you a little bit of a framework so you can print it out and use it. But hopefully you've gotten a sense of the basics of it, which are essentially using the skill set, using the sentence prompts of what I hear you saying is there more? And then that makes sense. I can see how you would feel that way. And the empathy is, I imagine you might be feeling. And then if we bring that all together, we can create so much more connection, so much more depth of understanding. And we have a whole new way of listening to each other. So please practice this active listening skill. I believe these kind of things can change the world. They can certainly change our lives and our relationships. Thank you for being here. If you want to follow the Intimate Connection series, the link is here. This is a video YouTube thinks you'll like. If there's anything here you've enjoyed, please comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.